Welcome to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. Want to welcome you here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. We've got a great show in store for you today. We'll be joined by Prescott High School football coach Cody Collett, who will speak about his team's success during the COVID-19 stricken season. We'll then be joined by Camp Verde High School girls basketball coach and principal Mark Showers to talk about their recent trip to the playoffs and their success last year and how he will be replacing that very heavy senior class. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader as she takes over the girls basketball program over at Coconino High School. All of that and a whole lot more right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports. I am joined now by Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader. Coach Schrader, welcome onto the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we are very happy to have you, as we know this is your first season coaching the girls varsity program at Coconino High School, but obviously you are definitely familiar with the sport of basketball, having been played basketball in high school at Northland Prep Academy with the Spartans, averaged your career 10 points per game, including a very impressive sophomore season where you averaged 12 points a game. You played under Coach Joe Donaldson. How did Coach Donaldson shape you into the player, person, and coach you are today?
You know, Coach Donaldson is just a really great human all around. He still is, but while he was coaching, he was a school psychologist. So I think he used that to his advantage, and he also kind of inspired me in like a lot of ways with his school psychology. And we did a lot of character building along with, learning a lot of basketball. And he was like a dad to me during basketball season, out of basketball season. He's a really, really cool guy. Like, I hope everybody knows him. Like, I want everybody to know him so bad.
Well, obviously he had an impact on you after Northland Prep. You go the academic route, earning your degree in psychology, much like Coach Donaldson. Have you been able to utilize that degree in any form of your coaching?
Yeah. I think that, studying psychology in school helped me learn a lot about myself and a lot about how to, relate to others, how to understand others. The parallels between, psychology and coaching is just insane. Like, I started when I was 18 and I noticed it right away. I had an interest in psychology in high school. And then it just went up from there. And then as soon as I started coaching, the parallel was just uncanny. So.
Has it been helpful in sort of connecting with the players as well and almost gaining a little bit more of a perspective on how a high school student would think?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, I'm so familiar with high school students that it's a little bit easier as time goes on for me to relate to them. And, obviously like using the psychology route has definitely been beneficial. It's definitely important to be able to relate to them. Not everybody can do it, and I'm sure trying. I've been doing my best.
Well, Coach, you have been doing a good job so far. You start your high school coaching career as an assistant coach for the JV basketball team, which is funny because when you were considering high schools, you decided between Northland Prep or Flagstaff, but you end up at Coconino High School as the assistant JV basketball coach. slowly working your way up to the head basketball coach for the JVB program, or I guess technically the freshman program, but as you mentioned off air, that they did not have enough students to put together a full freshman team. But you got to coach the JVB team along with being an assistant coach. How did that build you and prepare you for this position this year?
So it was really cool last year because obviously like had a little small amount of freshmen, and then I had a bunch of sophomores that I had as freshmen as well. I was really like, I feel like at a certain point last year, I had already gained like a lot of their trust, just because they were familiar with me. And like I said, that's probably the most important component to me, is gaining trust. And, you know, Coach Reyes, who has been the head coach the past quite a few years, he put a lot of trust in me. Just after being an assistant for so long at the lower levels and helping out at the varsity level too, like he had a lot of confidence in me, and he kind of just gave me my own team, which was really, really big for me. And then here we are.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as you mentioned, Coach Martin Reyes, of course, stepping down as the head varsity basketball coach for the girls program at Coconino High School this season, which allows you to take over the program. Just kind of talk about that relationship with Coach Reyes and how he helped you as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. He, as soon as, you know, Greta was not the coach anymore, Greta Hanneman, he was given the program, and he called me right up, just to come right back to his coaching staff. I'm sure he needed people. But he's obviously very well known, so it wasn't like it was hard for him to find people. So I was quite honored to be one of the people that he called to come back. So ever since then, you know, I spent a few years as an assistant, and he really, you know, I paid a lot of attention to how he ran practices. Paid a lot of attention to how he talked to the girls in huddles during games and on the court. And that guy's been doing that for so long. It's like second nature to him. And he was like a really, really good person to learn from in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah, it must be quite nice to get an opportunity to coach, to be not only, you know, we mentioned Coach Donaldson early on. You get to play under a great coach who helped you grow as a coach, as an assistant coach as well, and then working with Coach Martin Reyes, just kind of continued to build you as the coach that we see today. Is there anybody that you base your style off of?
To be honest with you, number one person would probably be Coach Donaldson. He had quite the impact on me in a lot of ways, and he's very, you know, he took a very calm, cool, and collected approach to coaching, which was at the time a little bit new for me. You know, I've had a lot of animated coaches in my day, you know, even as a youth basketball player, and he was really like the first person to just be so calm. And it just made me want to work harder. It made my teammates want to work harder. You know, NPA is not an athletic school it wasn't an athletic school when I was there by any means. That wasn't like the priority, but I think that he was instrumental in, you know, pushing them that way. And that's how I felt. I felt really strongly about athletics at NPA, and he was probably the biggest reason why.
You know, I've also had coaches who, you know, have expressed many different ways of coaching or to get kids to buy in. And I've had the coaches that do scream and yell. I've had the coaches that remain pretty calm. And, you know, I've noticed and, you know, there are some coaches, I've had phenomenal coaches who are a bit more loud and expressive. And I've had phenomenal coaches who are calm and patient. I mean, where do you sort of fall in your coaching style? Are you one of those intense coaches? I mean, I see you're wearing the WNBA hoodie. You got the hat on, behind you the Disneyland tapestry. You seem pretty calm and cool, collected, Coach. Do you feel the same way when you're out on the floor?
Yeah, you know, I guess my approach that I've kind of learned over the years, just like being in the high school coaching pool, I guess, the times when I choose to be really loud and intense is when I'm, you know, praising them, is when I'm encouraging them to get a little lower on defense, encouraging them to, you know, run a little bit faster on a fast break. That's kind of where my yelling comes from, the intensity. But other than that, I wouldn't say that I'm super loud and obnoxious by any means. I mean, I haven't coached a varsity game live quite yet, so that's a little bit hard to say for me at this time. But just, you know, for the most part, I'm pretty calm, which is kind of unheard of because I definitely struggle with anxiety, and that's like unheard of for me sometimes. But when it comes to basketball, I just put on a whole different face. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that switch happens. I same here. I do struggle with a little bit of social anxiety, but for me, when they turn the camera on, for some reason, it just goes away, and I somehow can remain somewhat calm. I do stutter a lot, but that's more of a speech issue.
Right. Right.
Coach, what's one thing that you try to emphasize with your players when you're out on the floor?
So a lot of coaches, have the philosophy. It's like, you got to want to play for yourself. You got to want to play for your teammates. And, I'm 100% behind that, but I'm also behind, being able to gain their trust enough to where, they put me on that list too. Like, they want to play hard for me. They want to have to want to play hard for the person that's at the top, in my opinion. Cause if that person at the top doesn't have everybody's trust, it's going to be a little bit tougher, to inspire them to, run just a little bit faster, go 2 more minutes without needing a sub, just little things like that. And it's big for me to gain their trust, because for them to want to play for me as well as themselves and their teammates, that's super important for me.
In a lot of situations, a high school basketball coach plays many different roles, not only as a coach, but also in some cases a parent, or even just a leader out on the floor. And I would assume, and you can probably speak to it a little bit more, of gaining that trust with these high school kids who are going through a lot in their personal lives and during school, especially now with COVID-19. As we all know, the pandemic is continuing to make its way not only through this state of Arizona, but through the entire world. And I would assume that gaining that trust early on with your players is something very important, especially with a new coach.
No, absolutely. I have been telling them every single day, like, I'm working hard to gain your trust. That's the most important thing to me right now, just with how tough things have been in general. And I just want to be like a source of positivity, because, they're at home at school and they're just so not used to that. They're so used to like going to school, seeing their friends, getting out of the house, and they're just, stuck at home on Zoom all day. And I want basketball to be even more of an outlet than it ever has been for them, especially this year. So that's definitely an emphasis for me.
Yeah, for sure. Sports for me were definitely an escape. Just in general, it was just nice to get out there and practice with some friends and play basketball and compete and get sort of that energy out that I don't necessarily get to express on a regular basis, especially now, considering I'm not in school and I mostly sit behind a desk half the time. So
right.
That's my outlets to express myself. But again, we were speaking with Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader. This is Coach Schrader's first season at the helm of the varsity program at Coconino High School. Coach, as we mentioned, COVID-19 has been an absolute nightmare in many different ways. Have you gotten an opportunity to practice it all with your team, talk to your team, meet with your team? I know you are kind of in a good spot, being one of the former JV coaches, so you kind of should know a few of the players by now, but have you gotten a chance to speak with anybody yet?
Yeah, I definitely have. Actually, at the beginning of all this was kind of when I was, applying for the job and everything. So once I found out I got the job, I just got right on making an Instagram, and I made a bunch of like weird little workout videos for them to hopefully, give them something to at least laugh at. I don't know, like, cause the first few months of this, everybody was just literally stuck inside, really not a lot to do. It was really nice outside. So I shot a lot of outdoor, workout videos, and that was kind of like where I wanted to kickstart it, even if they're laughing at me, that's totally okay. And then we didn't even get into a gym until late August, maybe early October. That was the first time we were allowed into the gym. Just held some open gyms. I let them play, shake off the rust a little bit. And after a few weeks of doing that, I was able to, even though we took like a little bit of a break that kind of had to go to a halt for a week or two. I started, making it a little bit more practice-like, just so that they can refine their skills. And I've had like a pretty good turnout, and I have a bunch of girls that are in there working really hard. And as of right now, I'm going Monday through Saturday until we get the okay to start official practices before games.
Yeah, we very much are in a sort of limbo right now with the winter season. As we know, we're still in that pause. We're still kind of aiming for that January 5th start date. Some counties are able to practice without restrictions. Some can't practice at all. So it's a very particular and very strange situation that we are in currently. But it seems like you've taken advantage almost of, like you mentioned, making those workout videos and kind of, showing that you're a serious coach, but at the same time, you know how to laugh at yourself and the communication aspect with setting up an Instagram page and making sure that your players are, taking shots during the off season, running a little bit, staying in the best shape that they can. And I think that's an incredibly smart idea to put together an Instagram page, because it also gives you an opportunity to connect with your players without actually being in front of them.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is definitely the age of social media, and social media has obviously blown up a little bit since the pandemic started because it's all anybody has to look at sometimes. That's definitely, I spend a lot of time on it myself. I'm not even going to lie to you. And like you said, like as long as I can laugh at myself, hopefully, that gives them license to be able to laugh at me, laugh at themselves too. Like this isn't the year to be insanely serious, like obviously there's a serious component to it. I want to do well my first year. I want them to do well under me. But like I said, the being positive, being like a source of positivity for them in any way, shape, or form I think is going to be key. So that's just what I'm trying to do here.
Very much so, Coach. And we're excited to see what the Panthers have to offer in the 4A Grand Canyon region this year. Last year, 14-5 overall, 10-2 in region, including a play-in win against Poston Butte. What can we expect from the Panthers this season in the Schrader years?
As long as I can gain their trust, we're gonna be pretty dangerous, if you ask me. I'm returning a lot of really, really amazing kids, and as long as they can put in the work for me, I'll put in the work for them, and you're gonna see a lot from us. That's definitely a promise.
What players can we expect to make the jump from the JV squad to play for you now up at varsity?
So last year, actually in preseason, varsity lost their point guard to a separated shoulder for the season. So at the JV level, Coach Reyes was like, sorry, I'm taking your point guard. So, her name is Elise Palmer. She started a lot of games last year for them. So for the varsity team, so I'll have her. I have Ashlyn Roberson. I got Keisha Ashley. Those are two amazing kids, really good in school, work their tails off. I've had them since they were freshmen, and I'm really excited to see what they do at the varsity level for sure.
Very much so, Coach. I've just got one or two more questions before we go. As we know, you're the head coach now of the Coconino High School basketball team, so you almost adopt that rivalry against Flagstaff High School. Are you looking forward to circling the Eagles on the schedule this year?
I really am. Coach Johnson was actually my coach in 7th grade. He was my NJB coach, and I was okay. I was decent. Like I had been playing since I was 4, not a whole lot of organized basketball, but he drafted me on his team because, he said right to me, he's like, you can shoot and I want you on my team. So Immediately he's like the first coach that really said something like that to me that made me like, oh, okay, so I'm worth something. That's pretty cool. So it definitely, he probably doesn't remember it, but I'll remember that forever. Coach Johnson he's an absolute staple in Flagstaff's basketball community. And I'm going to end up being super, honored to be coaching on the same court as him. He's amazing. Like he's done amazing things with Flag High. I've had a lot of friends go through that program. He makes everybody better. Like everything he touches turns to gold. If you ask me, like that's a really good guy, a really great coach. So it's just that'll be surreal. My dad is also a basketball ref. He's a pretty decently well-known basketball ref in Flagstaff. And, ever since I was little, I was going to Flag High Coconino games, watching him do the games. And it's just it's kind of surreal to be on the varsity end of those rivalries. So I'm really excited. That's the most exciting part for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I bet so. We will get the opportunity next week to talk with Coach Johnson on the program, and I can't wait to speak with him as well. I know he's very prominent in the Flagstaff area. He's been with that program for a very long time and has turned them into quite a powerhouse. And we're looking forward to the Panthers-Eagles games. And I've got one more question for you, Coach. What can players expect when they go through your program?
Like I said, and I'm going to say it until the day I die, trust, I will continue to build that trust until I feel like I've gotten it. And then, we can work from there. Definitely expect, a lot of laughing, a lot of fun. But I don't take it lightly, because I can definitely be serious. As long as we can separate that, we're going to be best friends.
Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader. Coach, thank you very much for coming on the program, and best of luck when we get started for the winter season.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be joined by Prescott High School football coach Cody Collett. On the other side of this break, Off the Bench will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules, and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm Philip Catafamo. I am joined now by Prescott High School football coach, Coach Cody Collett. Coach, welcome on the program.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we were happy to have you. We know the Badgers finished the very hectic 2020 season with a second-place finish in the 4A Grand Canyon region, a 4-3 overall in the 7-game spread, and a trip in the play-in round against Cactus for the playoffs. So let's talk about that Cactus matchup, Coach. We know Cactus High School is always tough, but how did you feel your team matched up in that game?
Cactus has got a really, really good team. They were tough before they added a few pieces via the transfer mode there, but their linebackers are as good as we had seen all year. Extremely talented team, very, very, very tough matchup. I was really proud of the way our kids competed. I think we could have played them better. We didn't. I think Cactus is the favorite to win it in 4A. We'll end up seeing how that works out, but certainly be an exciting semifinal matchup between they and Casa Grande.
Yeah, very much so. You guys graduated a very heavy senior class last year. You said 26 seniors before we got started with the interview, including quarterback and leading rusher Dellinger Boyd, who really stepped up for you guys this year. And in a way, do you feel like your team exceeded expectations this year, or were they right where you planned they were going to be?
I thought our team improved a tremendous amount throughout the season. I was really, really happy with our kids. I was really happy with our culture. I think took effect, how hard our kids work, navigating so many obstacles, not just the season and so many new players. And I shouldn't say new players because they weren't new to the program, but guys that didn't have a whole lot of varsity experience. Just really, really proud of the way they competed. Nate Wright, obviously, I think was definitely one of the best players in the region, rushed for 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns, had a whole lot of tackles as well. Luke McCausland did a great job for us. Braden Nelson was fantastic. Our Wyatt Snyder did some good things. Nathan Brasino did some good things. Vinny Oldfield did some good things. Even though our senior class only had 13, I think the kids that were there were really good football players and did a lot of really good things for us. Obviously, we played a ton of sophomores, more than I've played in my tenure at Prescott, and we had some good juniors contribute as well. So excited about what we did this year, excited about our future. Love being at Prescott. It's a great place to be, great administration, great kids to work with. And we'll continue trying to work that process. That's the buzzword in coaching, but it's true. We don't really talk to our kids about going to the playoffs or winning a championship or this. We talk to them about improving daily, trying to be the best version of ourselves we can be. I firmly believe in the John Wooden philosophy of success, which is become the best you're capable of becoming. And that's what we talk to our guys all the time about. And I do think the best Prescott High School is capable of becoming is a very, very, very good 4A football team, no question.
And we have very much seen that. You took over the program you took back over the program in 2018. We'll get to your coaching tenure in just a little bit, but you got basically an opportunity to see a lot of these seniors grow. from when you took back over the program, and maybe even a little bit the year before when you were an assistant coach coming back to Prescott High School. But let's just talk a little bit about that senior class. You mentioned a few names. Obviously, Nathan Wright leading the charge on the ground with 1,100 yards. Luke McCollison was your second leading tackler behind Nathan Wright. Another guy, as you mentioned, Nathan Briseño, did great defensively and as a receiver for you as well. Just let's talk a little bit more about the impact of that entire senior class, another heavy senior class for the Prescott Badgers leaving after this year.
So proud of our senior group. Really great group of kids. It is a group that I think really epitomized what we like to think our program is about. We have 5 core values in our program. We talk about respect, honesty, toughness, effort, and discipline. And I think all those guys epitomize that. They came to work every day. They worked the process. They worked at getting better. Also, another thing we talk to our kids a lot about is being selfless. And I think it was an extremely selfless group. It was a group that cared greatly about the team, more so than individual accolades. And I think your program is headed in the right direction when your best players are also your hardest workers. And I feel like these seniors epitomize that. And we're really great at continuing the longstanding tradition of Prescott High School football. 1910, we've been playing football. It's always amazes me when I say that. This program was around long before I was even a thought, and it'll be around long after we're both gone. So I love being at Prescott.
Yes, and my sister currently lives in Prescott, and so I've got an opportunity to visit the town a few times outside of obviously traveling for football games, but very historic area in Prescott. As you mentioned, Prescott High School been playing football since 1910. And of course they were around before both of us were even a thought, Coach. And they are going to be around for very much longer, and beautiful traditions in Prescott. I love seeing a lot of the architecture and a lot of the old buildings in Prescott. Just kind of, there's so much history here in Northern Arizona that I feel kind of gets a little bit overlooked. But getting back to football, Coach, next year, well, actually, let's start with this. Offensively, you guys utilize the run a lot. You did have a good quarterback in Dillinger Boyd, who was also your leading rusher, but this year, utilized the run a little bit more than the year before, actually. A lot of the Wildcat offense, we saw direct snaps to Nathan Wright, along with the other running back whose name I'm blanking on. I should have written it down.
Cody Leopold, sophomore.
There you go. Cody Leopold, who was also a great defensive ad for you guys as well. He'll be coming back for his junior year. Utilizing the run, was that the game plan from the beginning, Coach, or did you have to change the game plan to match the team as the season went along?
I think we've always been a run-heavy team. We would have liked to throw it a little bit more. I think when we started doing some Wildcat, and incidentally, I'm a Sun Devil, so we call that package Devil. I don't call anything Wildcat.
I got the inspiration from the the late 2000s Miami Dolphins. My dad's a Dolphins fan, so I remember watching Ronnie Brown lining up in the Wildcat formation. So I was kind of thinking maybe you took a little inspiration from there, but I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue, please.
No, I remember watching the Dolphins do that, and that was kind of when it broke into the NFL and was big there for a stretch. But yeah, I definitely we do a lot of that. We try to mix up. Anytime you have the quarterback run the ball, you get a +1 in the running game. If the quarterback's just handing the ball off and faking, he's not, sometimes he'll carry people with the fake, but when you get the quarterback to take the direct snap, it gives you a +1. And we feel like with misdirection and eye candy and things like that, you can do a lot of things. We did have some talented receivers and a good sophomore quarterback that played a lot, and a good senior quarterback that played a lot. When Nate and Cody keep giving you 7-8 yards a clip, it's kind of like, man, let's keep doing that.
It gets kind of difficult to go, hey, guys, why don't we just pass it this time? Where it's like, hey, Coach, I'm averaging about 7 yards a carry. Can we just keep going with the run? It's working pretty well. We saw it work very well during the Mingus Prescott game. Obviously, I'm the one of the broadcasters for the Mingus Marauders, and you guys just kept going right back to it, and it kept working. A very strong run team over in Prescott.
Well, that was a heck of a game. It kept working for them, too, because they rushed for I don't know how many, but a lot. Incidentally, Coach Provenzano, I have a ton of respect for. He's doing a great job with that program. I really, really think they're going to be back to towards the top of the Grand Canyon region in the years to come. He's doing a really fantastic job. They've always had good coaches and good tough kids there. And that Prescott Mingus game, I was joking with some guys after. I was like, man, some of those Prescott Mingus games are going to take years off my life, because they're always. We tell our kids every year the Prescott Mingus game is going to be a dogfight every single year. It's going to be a scrappy, hard-fought game, which I think is based on mutual respect. We have so much respect for them, and I feel like that feeling is mutual as well. I always look forward to that game, and I like when the AI places it last, because I look forward to that game all year. Obviously, look forward to playing all the Grand Canyon teams, Bradshaw and Flagstaff and Coconino. I feel like the Grand Canyon region is a special region. Because for the most part, kids growing up wanted to be a Mingus Marauder or a Prescott Badger or a Bradshaw Bear or a Flagstaff Eagle or a Coconino Panther. Lee Williams and Mojave have both been good too. Sorry, my daughter's here.
It's all good. It's all good.
Up for your class. I know I was talking. Sorry about that.
Perfectly fine, Coach. No big deal.
But I love our region because of that. And this isn't a knock on Valley schools, but there's something to be said for growing with a group that showed up as 14-year-olds, and they leave you as young men in your program, as opposed to, this doesn't happen at all the Valley schools, but so much transfer and
right, of course,
this, that, and the other. And I feel like the Grand Canyon's special, and it's one of the reasons I will be the Prescott Badgers head coach as long as they'll have me, because I love competing in this region. I love our kids, and we've got some great coaches to coach against as well. Obviously, Coach Young, longtime Mingus coach, I actually consider him a close friend. If there was a Mount Rushmore of high school football coaches in general, I think he'd be on the list, and he certainly would be on the Northern Arizona list.
Yes, we very much love Coach Young. I got an opportunity to speak with him early on in these shows beginning. As we know, he's got a long-standing history in the 4A Grand Canyon region with Mingus High School, and kind of nice. He's now coaching at the rival school, but you guys still keep that friendship close. And we know that the Badgers and the Bears games are also usually a dogfight as well, and much like the Mingus Marauders. I'm hoping though that this coming season we won't have any COVID issues, so that we can put the game where it's supposed to. Because I kind of got tired freezing my butt off in Prescott during the Prescott game at the end of in the middle of November, but. I'm excited for the future.
It was a chilly night that night. I was looking at you.
You always saw a couple kids in the student section had their shirts off. They were doing push-ups for touchdowns. I was like, man, I got 2 jackets on, Coach, the whole game.
Better them than me. One thing, incidentally, about Bradshaw Mountain, as a longtime Mingus fans know, the magic in Coach Young's success to me is what he established in the weight room, and obviously taking over in a COVID year in July, he didn't get a chance to do that. And I think you're going to see Bradshaw really be a different football team next year when he has a year in the weight room with them, because he's a fantastic football coach, but great in the weight room as well. I think Coach P over at Mingus is kind of cut out of that same cloth.
He is.
As well. So it's a really good fit for them.
Yeah, it should be very exciting next year in the 4A Grand Canyon region, how it all shapes up. We know there's some heavy hitters leaving the region, mostly Nathan Wright out of Prescott, Zach Bennett out of Coconino, and of course, Luis Jaramillo from Flagstaff. They'll be graduating this year. Coach, just real quickly, any kids making the jump to the college level next year?
We have some kids that are going to definitely try to do that. And good thing about our kids is they usually take care of business in the classroom. So anytime you take care of business in the classroom, you'll have more doors in that. Not everybody's going to play at a Division I school. I think we've only had a few out of the region, but we've had a ton of kids play college football. A ton of kids, because they got it done in the classroom, have had the opportunity to play college football. And I think we have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 that will have that opportunity this year as well. I think Nate is planning on going on a mission first, and then he'll come back and try to make that jump. And he certainly has all the tools. I think Luke McCausland, I think Nathan Brasino. Wyatt Snyder did some good things. I know he's gotten some looks for some colleges. I think Vinny. I think we have a few kids that are going to try to pursue that because they love the game. And I'll obviously do anything I can to support them in their pursuit of that dream.
Now, Coach, you started head coaching the program back in 2012 to 2015. You leave to go coach a couple, assistant coach and head coach as well down in the Phoenix area. You come back as an assistant in 2017 and now take over the program once again in 2018. Throughout that time, that is we're getting very close to almost a 10-year span of Prescott football in your career. How have you seen the program grow from 2012 to now here in 2020?
I think Prescott football has always been a special place. Lou Benetone was a longtime coach. They've had some great coaches and some great players here. Always been a tough, hard-nosed team. I think our growth in terms just trying to really continue on the tradition of Prescott football is something that I take great pride in. So many great people have been here before, and just really, really Bill Gahn, longtime coach, 17 years at Prescott. When I applied to be the head coach at Prescott, I really took it seriously, trying to continue on a tradition that had gone when I got here, had been going for 102 years. So we're one of the few high schools that can say we played Tempe Normal in a game in 1911 or 1912. We played Flagstaff College, which later became NAU. Not many schools have that in their history. So I think just continuing the great tradition of Prescott football is something that I take really, really seriously, and our kids do as well.
Well, the tradition is definitely there, Coach. As I mentioned, the Badgers finished the season 4-3 record, second place overall. They get a play-in game against Cactus High School. We're all excited for what we can expect next year from the Prescott Badgers and the rest of the 4A Grand Canyon region. But, Coach, down in the JV levels and even some of the new seniors or new juniors, new sophomores, whatever, who can we expect to see step up next year for this team?
We had a good young group that really competed well. I think they were fortunate to get about one game on the JV, and then we kind of combined the groups and we played 7 games on the freshman sophomore team. We had a ton of sophomores on the varsity with us as well this year. But I think Jackson Rice is a good quarterback for them. I think there's a ton of kids in that group that I feel real good about. Isaac Muffley is a good looking kid that I think can do some good things. A lot of kids. I don't want to say a whole lot because I'll forget somebody. Don't want to leave anybody out, but there's I think it's a good group that will continue to base everything we do on improving every day. And I think if you do that, you give yourselves an opportunity to compete.
Prescott High School football coach Cody Collett, thank you very much for coming on the program, Coach. Best of luck with the Zoom. I see maybe having some technical issues on your daughter's end, but regardless, thank you very much for coming on. Congratulations on a successful 2020 season. Look forward to speaking to you a little later this year. You're the head wrestling coach as well, so we'll have to talk about wrestling when you come back on.
Awesome. I'll look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, Coach. Thank you very much. When we come back, we'll be joined by Camp Verde High School girls basketball coach and principal Mark Showers on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere off the bench. We'll be right back. All right.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Camp Verde High School principal / girls basketball coach Mark Showers. Coach Showers, welcome on.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, Coach. We know that the Camp Verde basketball program last year for the girls basketball and the boys had some very, very strong success. But speaking more for this season, I'm going to have you put your principal hat on here, Coach. But We know that COVID-19 has affected Yavapai County in general and a lot of other counties here in northern Arizona and literally everybody else. And I know that Camp Verde, a few of the sports were unable to complete, but we did see the soccer programs finish their seasons. Cross country was able to finish their season. Just kind of how did you feel the fall season went? And will we see more in-school procedures taken to prevent this from happening in the winter?
Well, unfortunately, you can't predict where COVID-19 is going to show up. As we saw when we started August 17th to in-person learning, for many weeks, we really had no effect from that particular virus. And not until we got kind of midway through the fall seasons did we see any kind of effect. And unfortunately, different organizations have different guidelines in regards to COVID-19. The AIA has some pretty strict guidelines to follow, and they're somewhat different than what we do here at the school. And so once we hit their threshold, we had to put our sport teams on pause at that time, unfortunately. But those are things that you just have to deal with as you're going through the season.
Right. And, we know that right now the winter season is kind of up in the air right now, but we're excited to get started. As I mentioned, you are the basketball coach over at Camp Verde High School for the girls program. 22 years, coach, started in 98, 99, right as the Jordan era was coming out down to a close. The Showers era starts up. But coach, multiple region titles. You've been to the state championship a few times. You got a chance to coach both of your daughters through your program. But last year, phenomenal year for the girls basketball program, going undefeated, winning their region. Very, very close loss in the championship game against Thatcher, 50-51, a absolute heartbreaker to say the least, coach. But, how did you feel your team performed in that game?
Well, just like in any game, you have ups and downs. You have surges where it looks like things are going all your way and you build a little bit of a lead and things look great. And then something happens you don't expect, and the team comes back. Maybe they hit a three at an inopportune time. Maybe one of your best players fouls out. Right. Which those things all happened in that game. And that's one of the neat things about high school sports. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
You talk about the fact that a lot of what you have in terms of reaching a championship game have to do with talent. They have to do with coaching. They have to do with your philosophy and what you put together. But down the stretch, some of it has to do with which way the ball bounces.
Right.
There was a point underneath the basket towards the end of the game where the ball was inbounded by us. We had a chance to score, and it ricocheted off of somebody's toe and went out of bounds.
Right.
And there was a discrepancy as to whether which team it belonged to. But that in and of itself could have made the difference in the game. And so you look back at a game like that and you say, how many layups did we miss?
Right. How
How many free throws did we miss? How many turnovers did we have? Each one of those things coming down to the end of a game like that is a huge impact on the finality of the game. So, my kids showed up and played hard and showed that they were seniors, and they showed that they had the resolve to be able to get to a platform like that. And so, for the season itself, I was extremely proud of my kids.
As you should be, coach. As I mentioned, undefeated in the regular season, you go all the way to the state title, a very, very strong senior class. Like you said, it's just some of those opportunities that you don't, at the time, you hope that they don't, have more implications down the line, like you said, a missed layup, or maybe a missed free throw, or a bad call, or a call not going your way, where they have implications down the line. But regardless, you mentioned your seniors. After that game, of course, a heartbreaking loss. What did you tell them?
Well, what I equated it to was life. And that's what we've tried to do through the program throughout, the 20 plus years that I've coached. Basketball is a tool. It's not necessarily life, although some people would like you to think that it is, but you can use it as a tool to teach some of the important things about life. And unfortunately in our lives, bad things or things, negative things happen to us, And it's not that specific thing that happens, it's what you do with it. So, you can hang your head and say, oh, that's horrible, we got cheated, or this person didn't make the shot they should have made, and dwell on those things. But I said, no, what we need to dwell on is we had a great season, and we need to learn how to overcome these issues that take place in our lives. Because a state championship basketball game doesn't rate with a marriage,
right,
or a career, or some family situation. And those are the things that are important. And hopefully what we've learned in basketball will help us to be able to get through and overcome and have successes in life that are more important than what basketball is.
Again, we were speaking with Camp Verde High School principal and girls basketball coach Mark Showers. Coach Showers has been with the program for about 22 years. Last season, as I mentioned, you graduated a very heavy senior class, 6 seniors, including leading scorer J.C. Finley. How did you watch this group of seniors grow throughout their time over at Camp Verde? I know JC was kind of one of the, not necessarily, it's not like college where you're recruiting or anything like that, but JC coming to the program was huge. A 6'3" center for a girls basketball program is almost a dime a dozen. She's a great scorer. We watched her all season last year. But outside of JC, of course, there are other seniors. How did you watch them grow together throughout those 4 years and get to where we saw them last year, which was undefeated?
Well, and part of that is, I go back to the idea of things being luck oriented. So the season before, we had the same players, the same system, and the same situation, but we had several injuries.
Okay.
And so because of those injuries, we were not able to attain the level that we attained when they were seniors. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, their senior year, we didn't have any injuries. We were able to go into the state playoff run with all of our kids, all of the Pistons firing all at the same time. And so, over the course of those 4 years that I had these kids, those were some of the problems and some of the issues that took place over those years. We had kids with injuries, we had kids with other issues and so on. And so to have a full team ready to go, we didn't have that until that final year, which was great because then we could really make a heck of a run.
And you did make a heck of a run. As I mentioned, undefeated in the regular season, you go all the way to the state title, 1 point loss to Thatcher in the state championship. It's unfortunate that, as you have these fond memories and you had a great season last year, it is kind of unfortunate that you kind of go, well, what could have been that year before if we had been as strong as we were our senior year? It could have been state title contenders again, back-to-back years, maybe even winning the state championship. But, that shouldn't be glossed over of the accomplishments that this program has had. JC, for example, is going to continue her basketball career at Trinidad College in Colorado. Did you have any other seniors or any other players who had signed to go play at a higher level, Coach?
Yeah, Tana Decker signed with Vanguard University in California. She's playing with them. And we're real excited about those two girls. They were two of the cornerstones of the program. JC rounding it out as the 2A player of the year last year. And then you throw in Amanda Lozania, who was a prolific scorer for us throughout her years. And her even getting to the varsity was kind of we didn't see it coming. It just happened because of an injury to Tana when they were freshmen.
Yeah.
So, and then you throw Lauren Ontiveros in there, who was really quiet most of the time. And then all of a sudden in certain games, she just appeared, hit 2 or 3 threes in a row, propelled us into a lead and a win. And then our kid, who's our big returner this year, Shelly Warfield, who was just solid. Her first 2 freshman and sophomore years for us and really added kind of that extra, that 5th player that really rounded us out so that we could be competitive at a high level.
And we saw a very competitive team last year, but the JV team as well had had a phenomenal year. It's got to give you some confidence going forward. As I mentioned, you're graduating 6 seniors. That's essentially your starting 5 and your 6th man that you're trying to replace. But who can we see from the JV team make the jump to varsity this year?
Well, we have a couple of kids. McKenna Martin, she was the post player on the JV. Deanna Arenzamendi, she's one of the guards. Yoreli Ortega, she's one of the guards on the JV. So it's nice to be able to have those kids come on up. Another one, Summer Bass. She was one of our wings. So yeah, we're looking forward to some good things from those kids as they make that transition.
And again, we were speaking with Camp Verde High School principal and girls basketball coach Mark Showers. 22 years with the program for Coach Showers, multiple region titles, went to the state championship game last year. Coach, you look back, even just the past 5 years, this program has not finished lower than second place. They have always been either second place or at the top, and except one year, I think in 2015 or 14, where you guys finished fifth. But that is consistency to a level that is incredibly impressive. You do have a good crosstown rival in Sedona. They had a great year last year as well. Not as good as you guys, of course, but how have you been able to keep this team right at the top almost every single year?
Well, we've been blessed with some good kids, kids that are willing to work hard and put forth the effort. Except for this last summer, we run a summer program. The kids play through the month of June. We usually take a trip to California and play in a tournament there. So the kids have been committed to get better every year, and that's helped us. And we've had, obviously there are some years where we've been a whole lot better than other years, depending on the level of talent we have. But the one thing that I tell the girls every year is I continue to coach the girls in Camp Verde because I know that they're going to give me 100% every game. Win or lose, they don't quit. And so that's been a neat thing for me, even raising my two daughters through this community. Right. I know that win or lose, the kids that I coach are going to give everything they have and compete. And that's fun. Whether you win or lose, having kids that compete every game and don't quit, you got to love that.
Very much so. And that's kind of what I've noticed in my short time here in Northern Arizona and watching your program over at Camp Verde, Sedona basketball, Marauder football, all the other schools that, Mingus has played against. I'd be remiss not to mention, obviously, the Marauder broadcaster, but I've gotten a chance to see a lot of these programs and with this show, speaking to a lot of the coaches, and there's so much passion for not only the sports that the coaches coach and the players play, but it seems like every single week, they always want to be out on the floor. They don't want the quarters to end. They don't want the halves to end. They want to play all night if they can. And it's something so admirable about this area is like you just mentioned it, Coach. Every single time you ask them to do something, they do it for you. They give you 120% every single time. And, I can't speak for other areas, but I know at least in my hometown, it's a mix. It can be a mix of commitment and uncommitment. But it seems like here in Northern Arizona, a lot of these kids just love playing sports and they love competing.
Sure. Well, and you mentioned the Sedona basketball program. Kirk Westervelt and I, we went to school together here in Camp Verde. His older brother, Marcus, is my age. And we used to beat the stuffings out of each other playing basketball back in the days when we were kids. And then, of course, Bob Young over at when he was at Mingus, of course, Bob and I, we used to play softball together, years and years ago. So, you're talking about guys that have been in this area a long time and are passionate, not only about sports, but about kids and helping kids reach a level of success that is above the rest.
You mentioned that earlier, Coach, just after the game, making it more of a life lesson as opposed to being, we lost the game, we did what we could, whatever, turning it into a life lesson. Because as you said, while basketball is very prominent in a lot of kids' lives right now, or in sports in general, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to continue in the future. Some kids don't play sports at the college level. They don't play sports after high school. I didn't. And I took a different career path. But you like you mentioned, turning it into a life lesson, making these kids turn we lost the state championship, but I'm having struggles at home. Okay, how can I incorporate that in my home life? It's not, you're not building players, you're building people. And it's programs like yours and a lot of the other coaches that I've spoken with who, like I mentioned, just have this passion for building people and making sure that when somebody goes through your program, they're not only a better player, but they're also a better person.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I got one more question for you, Coach, before we send you away. As we mentioned, you lose 6 seniors. Are we going to see more of a transitional year for Camp Verde this season when we get to it, or are we going to see them back in state title contention?
Well, this is a transitional year, But even in my transitional years, our goal is to make the state playoffs.
Of course.
And I think it's been about 20 years, maybe 19 years since we had a season where we didn't make the state playoff. No, I think one time in the last 20 years we didn't make the playoffs. We lost in the regional tournament and didn't get in. So, saying that, every year our goal is to get to the state playoffs. And there is not a team that I coach where we say, well, let's just do the best we can. No, that isn't the course of action. The course of action is to prepare for the end of the season where we put ourselves in a position to get into the state playoffs. Once you get into the state playoffs, what I tell every team every year is that it's like two separate seasons. The first season is to get in. The second season is once you're in, everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's fighting for that final spot.
Again, Coach Camp Verde High School principal and girls basketball coach, Coach Mark Showers, 22 years with the program. As I mentioned, a strong program over at Camp Verde. Coach, thank you very much for coming on the program. And we look forward to seeing the Cowboys out on the hardwood very, very soon.
All right, you got it. We'll be there.
Off the Bench will be right back. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more sports right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm Philip Catafamo. I'd like to welcome you back here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. We've got a great show in store for you next week, including conversations with Flagstaff High School girls basketball coach Tyrone Johnson and Flagstaff High School boys soccer coach Mike Jenkins as they get ready for the winter season. All of that and a whole lot more right here on Off the Bench. I'd like to thank my guests for coming on the program, and I'd like to thank you for watching along every single week right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time